All right, GM, thank you all so much for joining me this morning. It's another wonderful Friday morning, diving right on into another InVarch Weekly community call. We have a lot of exciting things to talk about this week. For those of you who are watching online, I don't know if you can see, I'm bundled up in a blanket here because I forgot to turn on my heater down here, so it's freezing in my basement. But that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and just everyone here who's familiar with the weekly community calls, everyone knows how I like to start these. I like to just dive on in into how like my week was, and then I give anybody who wants to share how their week went the opportunity to do so as well if they're interested in doing that. Um, so basically, this week has been a roller coaster. We've had a lot of exciting updates, a lot of things going on. Basically, in work as well as in real life. My son had like a small little dental surgery, which like he's totally fine. But he had to have that done yesterday. So yesterday was kind of a roller coaster for me, trying to balance like baby and work and other son, and it was a lot. Um, but then on top of that, my baby won a baby uh, like contest. I don't know if you guys are familiar, like if everyone else's countries do that, because I know we're not all from the same place. But uh, we had a baby contest, and my daughter won third place. I was like, I feel like it's a little bit rigged because she was the only baby with hair on there. There were like, my baby's only 6 months old, and so whenever these other two bald babies went ahead of her, I was just like, oh man, it's rigged. It's like she's too cute, so they had to put her in last. But it is what it is. At least she won something, right? But yeah, very very exciting week, fun week. Lots of things got knocked out this week. Lots of exciting announcements were pushed. And we have a lot of exciting things to talk about, guys. But before I dive on in, does anybody else want to take the opportunity to unmute yourself or talk to in the community lounge, and I will read your message aloud. Basically, how your week went, anything exciting that happened. It can be Sama related or just in your personal life if you want to share it. The important thing to remember is that these weekly community calls are supposed to be a laid back, kind of chalant environment where everyone can just kind of talk and feel relaxed, share any news that they want to share with the rest of the community because this is a community for all of us, guys. So if anybody wants to go ahead and take the mic, feel free to let everybody know how your week went, any exciting things that you did, or put it in the InVarchatech Community Lounge chat channel. Um, please do so now. The mic is yours. Okay. At this time, it doesn't appear like anybody is wanting to share how their week went, so I'm just gonna go ahead and dive on in. Usually, I will like call on certain individuals, but we got a lot of exciting stuff to talk about today, so I'm not gonna do that. Um, if anybody wants to share in the chat like how their week went following this, you're more than welcome to, of course. So, some immediate events to talk about, some immediate exciting things. Um, Tinkernet has onboarded, right? Tinkernet onboarded August, actually 7th, kind of like it was later in the evening, but it onboarded August 7th, a little bit ahead of block time, um, but not that much, not significantly. When it was onboarded, it couldn't have been at a better time. So basically, if you guys weren't familiar, the same day that Tinkernet was onboarded was the exact same day that GitHub unfortunately decided to side with big government. They kind of lifted the veil, as we've been saying over here, and they suspended multiple developer accounts and the codes of like that those developers had been coding with. Those accounts became censored as well without any due process, um, and it was kind of a shock. If you're a developer, the best way that our founder put this in the most recent Weekly Wednesday is like code in and of itself is almost like a form of free speech. Here in the United States, we have, a First Amendment right to freedom of speech. So when something is censored, when someone tells you you can't say that, or someone just deletes your stuff without basically giving you a valid reason, like you're valid, whatever, violating rules, community guidelines, laws, whatever the case may be, there was no due process. It was just they were suspended, and that was that. Um, Ironically, at the exact same day, Tinkernet was onboarded to Kusama, which is going to be a much better um, opportunity for developers to not only securely store their code, but also actually take true ownership over it, right? Because if you store anything on GitHub, if anything, this has shown us that just because your code's on GitHub does not mean you own it. They effectively took ownership over this code, and they were like, it's suspended. We're taking it. So if it was on Tinkernet, for example, using GitHarch when it's fully realized, the first step being INV4Git, then this wouldn't be happening to these developers. Who's to say what could have been deleted? We could have had something like an open source code available for there that would have changed the world. It just wasn't completed. It wasn't ready yet. And now, because of GitHub, we will never know. So things like that happen. That's one of the main reasons we wanted to create this blockchain like environment for IP, was because we seen how IP was being snuffed out. We see how it can very easily be manipulated. We see how individuals who have great ideas can very easily be coerced into giving up on them for a price or selling them out, and then that individual, typically being their competition, snuffs out the idea or uses it for themselves. We want to be able to remove that as a barrier. If you have a great idea, that was the whole reason Invarch originally came into fruition, was because people have great ideas. But the unfortunate reality is 9 times out of 10, people do not have the time, the energy, and or the resources or the finances to make those a reality. Unfortunately. With that being said, you can also expect that OSIF will be onboarded to Tinkernet about 2 months after. Hold on one moment. Hey, Electrovinix here with us, our strategic growth coordinator. Hey, Electrovinix, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just like in not a favorable environment to talk, but I welcome everybody on a community call. And I'm looking forward for you, Casey, to announce all the things that we have and all the news. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, you were unmuted, and I didn't realize it was you at first. I was like getting ready to mute you because you were talking in the background noise, and then I was like, oh no, that's our strategic growth coordinator. Well,
No, I'm just holding my phone. I didn't know that the mic is on. I'm very sorry.
No, you're okay. You're okay. I was just telling them I usually have one of our team members with me. AJ's not feeling well this morning, so he told me he won't be joining me, but I have you instead, so that's totally all right.
Okay, I will try to comment on some things, but I'm really like in a different environment. There's a lot of noise around me.
Okay. No, you're fine. Once again, Tinkernet will be onboarded. Tinkernet is onboarded. My apologies. I started that sentence weird. OSIF, the OSIF funding protocol, on-chain innovation funding, will go live approximately like 2 months after Tinkernet has been onboarded. So roughly, in October, you guys can expect OSIF to go live. Once again, we've talked about that before. If you guys scroll up in the chat, you will see a link to one of the EduSeries articles discussing OSIF, what you guys can expect with that. I highly recommend you guys to check that out and catch up on that if you haven't. Lots of good, important information in there. Moving on to the next subject. So, UDL-DAO. Once again, this is kind of a newer thing that we've been doing. I don't know if you all have been familiar with it. Once again, you guys can actually go up into the chat and go to the collections. The links to the remark collection has been posted. We actually have a giveaway going on right now, if you all are not familiar. I will find the tweet really quick, and I'm going to drop it in the chat box for those of you who are unfamiliar. Very, very simple to participate. So the UDL-DAO has announced an NFT giveaway. The first place being an actual golden ticket, a fully customized UDL. This was one of the ones that was going to originally cost 50K a sim and then gradually drop all the way down to 40, unless they all were bought up. So one of these is going to be given away, as well as a second and third place will get 2 silver or 2 semi-custom UDL tickets as well, are up for grabs. So there will be 3 total winners. To qualify, All you have to do is follow UtilDAO, Tinker Parachain, and Invarch Network on Twitter, and then retweet this tweet announcement. Winners will be announced in 3 days from now. Let me drop this link for all of you listening and hearing this for the first time in the open chat channel. There you go. So very, very simple to participate. If you guys aren't familiar with UtilDAO, once again, this is kind of a newer thing that we've been doing. These are the first NFTs that will ever feature piracy-resistant and plagiarism-proof NFTs. So basically, the giveaway is live now. The DAO is being built. We have an exciting way that we're doing this. It's not going to be like a normal DAO. I don't want to go into too much about it just because it's separate in and of itself kind of from Invarch and Tinkernet. But it's very interesting. It's going to be the first DAO to feature Invarch and Tinkernet technology as well, and seeing how it's implemented for DAOs. So if you guys are interested in being kind of like the first members to get some of that action, see some of these things come to fruition, I highly recommend that you at least participate in the giveaway if you can't afford to buy one. Totally free to participate in the giveaway, and you could possibly win a golden, fully customized Zoodle or an opportunity to win a semi-customized Zoodle. So be on the lookout for that. Make sure that if you share that, you're paying attention. I'm sure that you will be reached out to via DMs. Oh, excuse me, guys. Sorry, I'm not feeling the best myself this morning either. One important thing to keep in mind, so if you guys were recapping the Weekly Wednesday, or if you guys have watched it yet, one of the things that is being done, and we talked about this a little bit as well, is the website update. So we're providing some changes to the website. One of the things that you guys can expect when the website update goes live is that there will be a way for you guys to, yes, finally claim your Tinker. I'm happy to announce that. So basically, a lot of people had been asking, when is the Tinker TGE going to take place? And long story short, there was not like a TGE. The tokens already exist. We already have them. We just haven't airdropped them yet. We want it to get everything prepared. We've also gotten this fully nice setup UI. If you guys go and actually watch the Weekly Wednesday video, it's kind of shown off a little bit. You guys get a sneak peek as to what you guys can kind of expect it to look like. But very soon, I believe, I wrote this down just so I would be sure. Let me review really quickly. Okay, likely next weekend, closer to the weekend. Not a guarantee, but closely by the end of next week, you may be able to claim your Tinker. So I wanted to provide that because I know a lot of you guys have been excited. You've been asking, when am I going to get to claim my Tinker? Basically, it's coming. It's going to be very soon. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about regarding Tinker is for our ambassadors. So for our ambassadors who are currently here, or if you have been an ambassador in the Invarch ambassador program, all the way back to round 1, doesn't matter. If you are, you have the opportunity to claim some Varch. Not claim some Varch. I said that wrong. My bad. You have the opportunity to, I'm going to drop this form now, guys. You take this form, and it's totally optional. You don't have to do it if you don't want to, but basically, if you want to change 25% of your all's Varch to Tinker, you will have 2 weeks to do so from the time I'm announcing this right now. You will have 2 weeks. There is a form that I'm going to be dropping in just a moment in the Veteran Ambassador channel, as well as the normal embassy channel. If you guys fill out that form, you guys will exchange 25% of your earned Varch for Tinker, and you'll get that Tinker a little bit sooner. There's a bot that we will collect all of your addresses with to give them the Tinker airdrop for doing this sooner. You will receive a part basically according to your total Varch allocation earned before we started the program recently. Mikhail, I know that you had kind of done some of the mechanics behind this switch. Did you want to tell them anything more about this? About the possible change that they can expect, what they can get, and how we're doing this in 2 weeks. So just how much they can expect, for doing so.
Yeah. Yeah, so like we made those two things. First of all, as you all know, like from the Tinkernet tokenomics, 1% of the tokenomics will go to Invarch ambassadors, and it will be airdropped. So that's why we made a bot that will collect your addresses. You can input the substrate addresses in any like in any view that you will choose. So it could be Kusama, it could be Polkadot. That's no matter. So we have like a bot will convert it to a proper address. So we will collect addresses for around 2 weeks. I think so. So if you are a formal or ongoing ambassador, you can just drop it anywhere on the server. So the bot.
Oh, Mikhail. Oh, Mikhail. Hey, your mic is cutting out crazy bad. Sorry about that, guys. But Mikhail, he did explain that he was kind of like in a not so great location. But yeah, you guys heard. So if you're an ambassador or you have been an ambassador, at the end of this community call, I will post those. That way I can actually post like a corresponding announcement with it. So that way those ambassadors and former ambassadors who weren't here, they will have the opportunity to like have some context as to what this is and like what to expect. Also, for those of you who have been ambassadors in the past, not all of you have been assigned the veteran ambassador role. So that's actually one of the things I plan on doing as well when I get off this call is I'm going to be going through and assigning the veteran ambassador role to all past ambassadors who had earned actual tokens. So as long as you had earned tokens, you'd actually participated and done something in the program, you guys can expect to get this veteran ambassador role. We have all of your usernames and stuff already written down, so no worrying about like collecting that. That's already available. So, like I said, once again, this is just totally optional. This is not like a requirement. None of the ambassadors are required to do this by any means. If it's just an opportunity that we wanted to provide you guys because when we originally had planned on not going forward with a Kusama network parachain, we had anticipated that Varch would exist by no later than the end of September. That was kind of, put off because of Tinker. We decided to go forward with Tinkernet. So now it's likely that Varch will be pushed back as well. We wanted to be able to reward our current ambassadors who've been here, it's been basically almost a year that you guys have been working for us, and we anticipated all the way back last year that we would be able to be giving you guys your rewards, and unfortunately that just was not the case. So we put together this plan so that way the ambassadors who want some of the rewards for the work that they've done so far, they can go ahead and they can do so. They can get that. It's totally up to our ambassadors. Like I said, you have to have been an ambassador in the past or a current ambassador that has earned Varch. Once again, I want to reiterate to anybody listening that somehow, because I'm sure it'll happen, that somehow gets their hands on this form that has not been an ambassador in the past, has never earned Varch, it will be a waste of your time. We will know if you were never an ambassador or not. So if you were never an ambassador or you're not one now, please don't waste your time and don't waste ours. Don't use this form. I'm only going to drop it in channels where the ambassadors can see it, but usually somehow these things get out. So anyways, with that being in mind, I don't want to keep talking about that too much because not everybody here are ambassadors. Sorry about that, guys. My voice is like crap. I wanted to go ahead too, while we're here, and highlight the Cointelegraph article that was recently released that talks about NFTs and intellectual property and kind of explains like the differences and how they also can basically empower one another. I had a couple individuals actually reach out to me yesterday and tell me that they were disappointed that they could not read this. They could not read English, but they understand English. With that being said, they asked that I would read this article aloud for them during this call. So not a super terribly long article, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now, guys. If you guys have already read this article, if you want to, just use this as like a bathroom break, so to say. Okay, so NFTs and intellectual property explained. What are intellectual property rights? In its simplest form, intellectual property relates to something you create with your mind, such as artwork, literature, inventions, etc. These protections were relatively easy to enforce in the analog era, but in our digital world, where copying and pasting runs abound as millions of people create their own content, makes things especially challenging. Non-fungible tokens are a thrilling development that have the power to modernize everything from baseball cards to music albums, from movie merchandise to stunning art, but as with any new technology, there are issues that need to be overcome. The industry is still getting to grips with the rights that are afforded to the owners of an NFT, and there are other threats that need to be addressed. If a non-fungible token is stolen by a malicious actor, does the victim still enjoy IP rights, and how can we counter the risk of copycat NFTs being minted on a rival blockchain? When you buy an NFT, do I automatically get IP rights? The short answer to this is no. It's important to read the small print to find out exactly what you are getting. Let's run through some quick examples. Jack Dorsey sold off his first tweet in NFT form for a whopping $2.9 million back in March 2021. While there's little doubt that this is a historic piece of content, crypto entrepreneur Sina Estavi, I apologize if I didn't get that name pronounced right, doesn't own the IP to this tweet. All copyright still rests with Jack Dorsey. The New York Times pulled off a tongue-in-cheek stunt when it published an article about the crypto collectibles and then gave readers the chance to own a tokenized version of the story, and ended up selling for a whopping 350 Ethereum, worth $560,000 at the time, and about $600,000 as of the start of August 2022. Although this NFT did come with some perks, the buyer was given the chance to be named and photographed in a subsequent piece. It didn't include the copyright to the article, or any reproduction or syndication rights. Potential pitfalls don't end there either. Meta Birkins have become especially popular during the NFT boom, a digital remake of Hermes' famous bags, but digital artist Mason Rothschild ended up in hot water when the designer brand, which took legal action after claiming it could cause confusion in the eyes of consumers. Which NFT collections have IP rights to owners? Some of the biggest NFT collections out there right now, Bored Ape Yacht Club among them, have given full intellectual property rights to their users. This is a significant, and you could argue a very generous, development. It effectively means that those who own Bored Ape NFTs have the potential to profit from them. We've seen Eminem and Snoop Dogg, for example, team up for a new music video where they transform into their Bored Ape NFT characters. Meanwhile, sites have emerged where collectors can effectively hire out their apes NFT to brands. As we alluded to earlier, the actor Seth Green made a splash when he unveiled plans to create a TV show themed around his Bored Ape NFT, which he affectionately calls Fred, called White Horse Tavern. That was going to be the name of the show. Green's beloved collectible ended up being stolen in a phishing attack, and he ended up paying over the odds to get it back. Bored Ape Yacht Club's license states that those who purchase NFTs own the underlying Bored Ape, the art, completely, but doesn't actually mention what happens in the case of theft. Many experts believed that Green would have been on firm legal ground if he released the TV show without the NFT, but there aren't any guarantees. How can NFT and Web3 protocols help transfer IP rights? The 21st century has turned into an IP war zone and an innovation graveyard, but things are beginning to change. New and enhanced NFT classes have the potential to certify the New and enhanced NFT classes have the potential to certify the authenticity of non-fungible assets, protect their uniqueness, and streamline management rights. This approach is being championed by Invarch, an IP rights blockchain that is scalable, interoperable, and has ambitions to be integrated throughout the Web3 world. An invention, involvement, inventory, and investment protocol, known as INV4, delivers piracy-proof files as well as on-chain copyright and licensing. Setting out one potential use case for how its approach could transform the creative sector, the project paints a picture where decentralized music studios and record labels can flourish, with individual artists contributing distinctive elements. They could then be brought together to form a song with a plethora of beats and riffs, with each contributor retaining their IP, jointly owning the rights to the track and sharing a piece of the royalties. Could smart contracts be used for IP agreements? Yes. Business business deals could be brought into the 21st century with the help of blockchain. Invarch's goal is to ensure that those who held the most desirable NFTs, including CryptoPunks, Bored Apes, and Meebits, can establish on-chain agreements that extend to the use of their non-fungible tokens in a third-party product. Setting out its vision in a recent blog post, the project added, "In the end, you have a marketplace where communities can buy swag and products relevant to their interests, and a market where artists and NFT copyright owners can establish lucrative income streams from their NFTs and increase the raw value of their digital assets." Lastly, how can IP assets transform DeFi, DAOs, and the metaverse? Invarch says that its infrastructure can be used to speedily create new decentralized autonomous organizations. This could make it easier for nonprofits to fund intellectual property development, and organizations could generate cash flow without signing over their IP rights. It's hoped roadblocks to innovation could be torn down with a new development highway left in its place. Invarch's infrastructure could also offer greater protections to those who are building ambitiously on virtual plots of land in the metaverse, and unlock whole new business opportunities over in the world of DeFi. The project recently won the 43rd Kusama Parachain auction, and at the end of June, it unveiled technology that will make everything from music to code, quote, all but impossible to steal. What's more, this will strike at the heart of centralization in the world of IP, not least because seeking protection through Invarch is vastly cheaper than the status quo. So, to kind of like recalibrate on the very last ending part, what it says there, it's seeking protection through Invarch is vastly cheaper than the status quo. This is something that I've said multiple times. I'm going to say it, I'm sure, plenty of times again, because it's something that I really like to drive home for realization. I like to use my own country as an example. So if you live in the United States, it doesn't matter what idea you have. It could be anything. I'm gonna go big here just to be broad, but I'm gonna say I invent a time machine, and I have the blueprint. I have everything down to exactly how many nuts and bolts I need to build it. I know exactly every material, every little facet to make this thing work. I own the IP to this, so I'm gonna use Invarch because if I went to the U.S. government, for example, and I said, here's my idea. I figured out how to build a time machine. I want to patent it. I have to apply. That cost me baseline $15,000. Most individuals, anybody that I know, does not have $15,000 just lying around to hopefully get approved for a patent. And I say apply because it is not a guarantee. So you might also then ask, what happens if I spend $15,000 trying to patent my idea and I don't get approved? You don't get your money back. They take your money and you get nothing. You don't get your patent, you don't get your money back. So in other words, you just get screwed. What happens if they do accept your patent? Well, congratulations. Now you've just paid $15,000 for a piece of paper that says that you do effectively have the intellectual property rights over this, but you have no protection. So all you've done is you've now filed a patent, and you've made it to where people can, see that you're the patent holder, but also if they can find any way to steal your idea, it is entirely your responsibility to make sure that it doesn't get ripped, that your idea does not get stolen. There is no active protection, so to say. Invarch changes that too. So not only are we going to allow you to effectively patent your intellectual property assets in the form of NFTs and using blockchain, technology, we're going to do it for like $1 or cheaper. On top of the fact that when XCA is developed and it's finished, you're going to have piracy-resistant, plagiarism-impossible assets. And the desire, it is an ambitious desire, is to see that not only branch out from just Polkadot and Kusama, those networks, but eventually all of Web3. Because if we could make all assets piracy impossible, we were making it a joke every now and then, copy paste Mint with other people's NFTs, because that's a reality. And that's something that needs to change, because if you're going to be telling people that NFTs are truly unique assets, they need to be truly unique assets. They need to not be able to be replicated, stolen, ripped, whatever the case may be. And that's just not the world that we live in today. That's not the reality. And some people aren't fully aware of that. We've seen some people pay a very, very, very hefty price because they weren't aware of this. Um, I can't remember exactly the story. I know that we've highlighted it before, for example. But there was a whole DAO that like loved, I think it was this book or this movie, and they bought just a version of it, a copy of it that they thought was the actual IP rights, and they paid like I think it was like $300,000, um, and they just paid for a really old copy of the book. It was not the IP rights, um, so very expensive lesson learned. Basically, case in point, Invarch is seeking to change things basically just because the world that we live in today, innovation is snuffed out. It's always talked about how people have good ideas and then they're stolen, ripped. We see that constantly. Most prime example that we like to list for that is Facebook. The Winklevoss twins came up with the original concept that was going to be Facebook. And they shared it with Mark Zuckerberg in an unopen, unprotected environment. And basically, they didn't make him sign anything. No NDAs, no nothing. And they tried to get him to come and join them to build it. And he was like, that's a really great idea. I think I'd be interested. And because there was absolutely zero legal protections, he did something to this day that's extremely controversial. And he went and built Facebook by himself. So this just goes to show a quite literal billion-dollar idea, trillion even, probably one day, got ripped. So if you might think that the idea that you have today is insignificant, that it's not that important, that it doesn't need protection, I hope that changes your mind. I hope this goes to show you that things can be wrong. You never know who's watching. For example, too, this is something that we've never talked about, but for example, if you're an inventor and you come up with an unbelievable invention, I like to reference Nikola Tesla here because that man was brilliant. He was just way ahead of his time, unfortunately. And whenever he passed away, I believe it was in 1908, that man had some of the most insane inventions that the government at the time had ever seen. And we know absolutely basically nothing about that. Nothing about what they found. Now, could you imagine had someone like Nikola Tesla had access to something like Invarch? Just what could happen? And this is just one man. Think about all of you. You all have amazing ideas. I'd like to think that at least everybody in their life will have one really good idea that they can run on. And so it's hard to swallow the fact that over the course of all this human history, there has been more good ideas snuffed out than there has been come to fruition. And think about how different our society would look overall if every good idea was protected, if it was stored, if it was able to be remembered, even after the original creator, thinker, whatever it might have been passed. Blockchain allows all of that to become a reality. So the future is bright with blockchain. I think if you're not bullish on, Web3, I hope that this has changed your mind, because having piracy resistant, plagiarism proof assets start here. It's one small step for us, but it is a huge step for innovation. To be able to protect anything down to your music, for those who are artists here, for genuine artists who just want to paint, draw things, be able to protect your code, if you're a developer. All these different things are of reality that's soon going to be able to be in the palm of your hands. I couldn't be more excited for it. I know that we have a lot of diehard community members out there too who are beyond excited to see all this finally come to fruition. Like, for example, in 2 months we have OSIF is going to go live on Tinkernet. That's going to be amazing to watch happen. On-chain innovation funding happening right in front of us. I'm just stoked for the possibilities, guys. I'm a little emotional right now just thinking about everything. But yeah, I can't even begin to facet the things that are going to come to fruition because of this technology. And it's all thanks at the end of the day, it's all thanks to Polkadot and Kusama, right? For providing these networks for us to build in and providing the community of like-minded individuals to support us and help us bring this dream to fruition so that we can help all of you hopefully bring all of your dreams and great ideas to fruition as well without making you sacrifice anything. We do not want you all to have to sacrifice ownership over your IP. We don't want you to have to sacrifice any type of money that you would profit off of from your IP. That's yours. So I'm just excited for the future, guys. With that being said, I don't know. Okay, yeah. So we have the Cointelegraph article that I just recapped. Oh man, I kind of went over my time here a little bit. The only other thing that I wanted to talk about with you guys is we did recently have our ambassador program update go live. So for those of you who haven't heard or hadn't listened in the past, basically we've changed things from how things used to operate. So we used to use a point system, and basically we had rounds as well, a set amount of Varch for every round, and based on how many points you earned as an individual against the total amount of points earned from everybody, would determine how much Varch you got out of that pool. We wanted to make things totally transparent and change that status quo, so to say. So we changed things and made it to where we no longer use a point system at all. Every task for the ambassador program is totally transparent with the amount of Varch that you will be awarded with associated with the task that you were performing, as well as we introduced some new opportunities for Army members. For those of you who are once again familiar with our ambassador program, we have Army members and Corps members. Army members are the majority for sure. For those, we introduced the opportunity to be able to write articles to be featured directly from Invarch, as well as to do designs to be featured directly from Invarch as well, and to win bigger Varch allocations if your articles and designs are selected to be featured. Articles actually will be finished at the end of today at the normal weekly reset time. So if you guys are in the Invarch Ambassador Program, if you're in the Army, I highly recommend you guys try to submit an article before the end of the day. You have an opportunity to win. I think at this time, there might only be like 1 or 2, maybe even 3 submitted. So, the opportunity is there, guys. Don't count yourself out. With that being said, we did have new application forms as well come out for the Ambassador Program. I will drop a direct link to the website where you can go to apply right now. Let me just pull it up here myself. But yeah, if you guys are interested in the program, I highly recommend you apply. So I have been having a lot of people message me as well, hey, I applied like 3 days ago. Why haven't I been accepted, etc. If you apply, just know that we have your application. We do not reject individuals, basically because we do have what we call term limits. So we are enforcing those now, and the next set of term limits will go into effect in basically a week almost, just a little over a week. So with term limits, basically we cycle old ambassadors out of the program and we add new ambassadors in. We do have set targets as well that we try to keep in mind when referencing geolocation, where you are in the world because of who you can share and who's seeing your stuff. So for those of you who have been messaging me for days now and been hey, why haven't I gotten into the program? It's not that you're being ignored, I promise. It's just we're trying to make sure that we're doing everything the way that we set it up to be ran. Appropriately. We had a lot of changes in this most recent update. It might not seem like it so much on maybe even the ambassador's end, but on the management end, on our side, there was a lot changed. So we're just trying to make sure that everything is flowing correctly right now. But if you have applied, once again, you're only able to submit one application, so don't fret. If you, for example, if you do something after the fact and you've already submitted your application and you want me to see it, feel free to send it to me. My DMs are always open as your community manager. But once again, if you've applied, I implore you to just stay active, stay resilient in the program, stay hyper, stay hyping up the project for what it's providing, and you will most likely be selected because, once again, the term limits are coming into effect. They began going into effect for the first time just last month, and we've had this program, the embassy, running since April. So everyone will get an opportunity to have time in the embassy as long as they stay active. It really just depends on how bad you want it and how bad you are willing to, stay in a community setting for the time being. But with that being said, guys, I appreciate everyone coming out this Friday and joining me. I'm sorry that our usual teammate couldn't be here with us as well. He wasn't feeling that good this morning. We had Mikhail join us. I think he's already left now because he was having the bad connection issues with his mic. And we have our good friends Chris Morris here as well, and Dustin, I see you joined in as well, getting the alpha.
What's up, man? What's good?
Dude, before we hop out of here, I just gotta say your Udall DAO background is amazing.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's
Is that the Decentral background?
I think so. Yeah, they threw it in there, and they're like, "Hey, you like it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I like that." That's one of the things I didn't mess with that they put in on their own. They're like, "Hey, check this out." And, everything else is like, change this a little bit, change that. And they're like, the background, I'm like, dude, keep that.
Yeah. Dude, that background is sick. When they posted that, I was just like, why didn't I think of that? But, no, that's awesome. Yeah, Dustin, for those of you who aren't familiar, he was one of our first golden Udall DAO ticket buyers. So he has a fully customized Udall. He currently has his equipped as well if you guys want to check it out. Once again, just to reiterate before we hop out of here, we do have the giveaway going on right now. So if you guys haven't entered the giveaway for an opportunity to win one of 3 tickets for a Udall DAO NFT, I highly encourage you guys to go participate. Very, very easy to enter, guys. I also dropped the link to the tweet in this chat. I'm just going to copy the message link and reiterate it and send it now for those of you who joined later. All right, guys. But once again, thank you all so much for joining. It's been another pleasant and wonderful morning with you guys, you beautiful people here, joining me for a weekly community call, giving you guys the alpha, all the new updates, all the information. We will have another exciting week next week, so I hope to see you all join me again. But that's it for this week, guys. So without a doubt, I hope to see you all again next week, and have a wonderful rest of your weekend, guys. Thank you all for starting it with me, and I hope to see you all later.
Peace, community. Have a great day and weekend.
You too.